What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Nerds Around. It's your boy, Law.
Your boy, Sebastian.
And your boy, Tone, from across the hall.
And today we have a very special guest.
Kristy.
Hey, Kristy.
Hey, Kristy, what's going on?
That's me.
Yes, that is you.
It's good to see you guys.
Because then we got the wrong guest, and we got to, reschedule, do a whole thing.
No, I'm here. I'm here for you guys.
So, tell us a little about yourself. What do you do?
I do custom cakes. That is my life. Somehow stumbled upon it, and I never looked back.
And she makes awesome custom cakes. I can definitely vouch for that.
We can all vouch for that. The whole team could just be like, yo.
It's all the free cake pops. It's all lies.
Yo, listen, you bribed us, and it worked.
Yeah, I remember
that was the intention.
I remember Lawrence came to Sebastian's house and he's like, "Oh yeah, try this cake pop." He's like, "It's for my homegirl Kristy." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Oh, this is good."
Good. Yeah, I don't think I've caught you at a show yet. That's a difference.
Right,
you would have found your own bag, but
yeah,
I do remember that. I remember a few messages after that. Yeah.
So, Kristy, I got the $1 million question for you.
What's that?
What inspired you to become a baker?
I don't know. The answer I always give everybody is that if you approached me now and said, hey, let me back up. If you approached me 10 years ago and said, hey, Kristy, you're going to be doing custom cakes and that's going to be your full-time job and you're going to have your own business, I would laugh at you. I'd think you were crazy. But here I am. And all of it makes sense leading up until then. So yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of one of those fate moments where you don't realize it's happening until you look back and you're like, of course this happened. But do you want the general timeline? You ready for that?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, let's have it.
It's about you. Let's go.
Oh, the encouragement. All right. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know where I was going with college. I almost got into auto mechanics and didn't quite make that decision, but I did end up getting a English language degree. And while I was doing that, I was basically paying myself through college being in the food service. So of course, I started as a waitress at Applebee's and kind of worked my way up the ladder. And before I knew it, I was in the kitchens, being a prep chef and sort of doing that thing. And then it led into bread baking, which I kind of laugh at now because even with everyone making bread right now, it's not really my thing, but it's just one of those steps that led me to the next. I was in a pizzeria, which actually makes a lot of sense now because if you look at the sort of details you go into before you make a pizza pie, it's kind of the same idea. And before I knew it, I was in bakeries, hired as a cake decorator. Before I knew what I was doing, I was painting because I was in college as a double major in art. And before I knew it, I was baking and decorating cakes and realizing very quickly that they weren't able to take on the orders that I was willing and wanting to take on. And then I just took off. I had that moment of, I need to do this myself and I need to make that leap. And it's been jump after jump since. It's still nerve-wracking, but it makes a lot more sense now. Looking back on every step that's led me here has kind of taught me one little thing to the next until I got here. Yeah.
Do you remember that first cake? Do you remember that first, hey, do you want to make a cake for me?
Well, the first cake versus the make a cake for me are two different questions, but let's start with the first cake.
Start with the first cake.
Right. It was probably something for my brother. I dabbled a bit, but nothing crazy. But I do remember one specific moment of doing a Mario cake, a Super Mario's Brothers. So I did little boxes with a question mark and a little Mario jumping. So it was pixelated, which was perfect for a starter, but still super detailed. And so I was doing that while I was taking the Michael's Wilton classes. But then my first paid cake, which was actually just a close friend of mine who's still a client of mine, which is crazy to think because it's been over 10 years now, but she kind of approached me and was like, I know you can do it and I'm going to pay you to do it. So you're going to do it. And that was one of the defining moments of oh, okay, I probably should do this then. But it was Hank Hill. And at the time, she's going to kill me for this. But at the time, she was dating a guy named Tommy. Tommy. So instead of dang it, Bobby, it was dang it, Tommy with Hank Hill's face. And it was great. It was a good moment.
That's awesome.
It's hard to say the most difficult. Sometimes it gets tough because people send you a reference photo. And you're like, great, cool, I can do that. But you're like, do I want to do exactly what someone just did? Or do you want to give your little twist to it? So you have to be sure when you're doing that. I always make sure to say, do I have any artistic liberty? Are you expecting exactly what you're sending me? So there's not so much in the design as it is making sure that you're communicating with your client correctly and making sure that you're producing what they're looking for. So some of my clients are like, hey, this is kind of the theme, do what you want. And I actually think those end up with better cakes because when I get to do my thing and not have restrictions, then I just go with it. And I don't even realize in the moment. But when they give me a lot of restrictions, it's good and bad. It's good because I'm going to do exactly what you want. I'm a people pleaser. You tell me I want X, Y, and Z. I will do exactly that. And that's fine. But I think there's some kind of beauty to the do what you feel like doing, do what feels like in the moment. And
like having a guideline works better.
Yeah, and I as you can see, I'm struggling to go back to the original. What's really hard because I don't want to put anyone under the gun by any means.
Definitely not.
Every order's tough, even if I've done it before. There's a lot of work to be done there. But I love it all the same. And as my big goal, my happiness lies in making sure that they're happy. And as long as they're happy, the mess in between didn't matter. So. Good. Yeah.
Cool. And then so when you're making your cakes, whether it's a commission and they're giving you crazy detail or they let you kind of go at it, what's that creating process? Do you have like a notebook? Do you kind of see it visually? You kind of just go for it? What's the process there?
It's a little bit of everything. Some clients do ask for sketches, but generally I do get that here. Someone's done it before. Can I do that? I do, of course, love the artistic liberty, but sometimes there's a roadblock in that itself because of the creator's block. Maybe you have the idea, but now you're stuck looking at someone else's cake that looks like something you want to do. So somewhere in the middle, I want to make sure if someone shows me something they want, that they're getting generally that idea, that I'm not so far from that idea, but I'm all about making sure that what I do is something individual and unique. So even though it's a theme that everyone's done, I'm hoping that what I do stands out amongst the rest of the crowd on some level.
So when you hit that cake block, what do you do to get around that cake block?
You grab one of these and reassess. Yeah, there's a little bit of prep. I'm a list maker. There's no denying that. I make ridiculous lists and then I cross them out and rewrite them again and make more elaborate lists and more generalized lists and whatever. So I have my list of, okay, you make this character, you make that character, you make this colored background, but there's a lot of in between that you don't realize, like, where does the cloud go and where am I going to throw a rainbow? Where am I going to put the happy birthday banner on? And all of that makes sense when you're putting it together. One slight shift kind of changes the whole cake. So it's a balance of trusting yourself, listening to your client, and making sure that you're meeting expectations, which is stressful, but there's an art to it, and it's almost like a social art to it too, because you have to pick up on things that they're not saying but they're implying, and you don't always make it. You don't always perfectly get what they're looking for, but that's exactly the point, is to at least do your best to make what they see in their head. Yeah. I think, what's funny is the time-lapse thing, I think actually came from like a little tad bit of spite. Not really, I don't want to say spite, but like...
Gotta love the petty.
Let me just prove myself kind of moment of like, because I kept getting these moments, especially in the beginning, as you can imagine, people didn't want to hear the prices. And I was honestly really kind of kind on the prices when it comes to custom cakes. But for somebody that's never ordered a custom cake, it's it's a price jump from Carvel. You know, it's something very involved. And the time lapses was my moment to be like, let me just show you from start to finish what it takes. And what's funny is I've adapted my time lapses now to be very straightforward. All my parts are in place and here it is getting done. But originally my time lapses, which are actually the more loved time lapses, which I avoid now because it takes hours. But I would try my best to be like, here's a baked cake. Now I'm going to stack it. Now I'm going to, decorate it and add all the little details. And that takes probably about 7 hours on a decent cake. So I wanted to let my clients know when I'm giving my price, this is everything I'm doing within the price range. So it did start out as sort of a like, let me prove my point moment. But as soon as I did the first one, that was it. That was like, okay, I have to do one for every cake because it only makes sense. It's a conversation starter. People love it. People love showing their kids, hey, this is how your cake got made. So it just worked out. I had no idea when I did it. It was honestly a slightly bitter thing when I started it, but now it's a loving thing. Now it's like, I gotta do this. Can't skip that moment kind of thing.
Right. What's a commission that you got where like you've seen like the client's reaction and you've just been like either it made you cry or just so proud, like especially kids, because I know like kids I have a sweet spot for. I've been teaching for forever, so like that moment of a kid just being like, oh wow, is awesome.
Okay, well,
it could be kids, it could be clients, like adults and stuff.
No,
because I do know adults like who have just been like, this is my wedding cake. Oh my god,
Yes. Well, it goes two ways with brides.
Okay.
But with kids, unfortunately, I don't see their reaction too much because I work so much with the parents that by the time it gets to the kids, I don't really see that. Mm-hmm. There are a couple of clients that make sure to film the reaction and send it to me, which is awesome. I've even had kids FaceTime me to tell me how much they love it, which is amazing. But I still have to say my favorite, which was when Law was with me. I want to say it was the VFW. I might have the acronyms wrong, but it was a fire department related venue, to at least say the least. It was a boot camp send away where one of the kids, I believe, was going into the Marines or something along the lines, where he wasn't there at the moment, but I don't think it was a surprise either, but I basically showed up before the party started onto this venue that was like a local firefighters venue that's like kind of a town venue. So I got a little bit of the entire town on top of a little bit of all the family, just basically anybody that would have showed up a little bit early, anyone that was working at the venue themselves. And it's not the first time that I've showed up to a firefighter or like first responder sort of venue, and there's just some kind of extra heart that goes into those people and the reactions and everything. So I show up with this boot camp send-off cake. It was a 3-tier, beautiful, humongous cake for this huge party. And Law was in the car, and I forced them to come in, I believe. Did I? Did I? I think I did. And they were like, oh, is he your husband? I'm like, oh, this is an awkward conversation. But no, so I go and drop off this cake, and the person that was getting sent to boot camp wasn't there yet, but it didn't even matter. There was the mother, the sister, the aunts, the grandmother, the people that worked with him, the people that are getting sent with him, like just literally everybody but the people that are getting So I mean, and that's not totally abnormal. You walk into a venue, there's a lot of hustle and bustle, you're like trying to get things done while they're trying to like have their first drink and like kind of settle themselves in themselves. And so I drop it in the kitchen thinking, oh, okay, the kitchen staff, no big deal. And they got floored, insisted on opening the cake right away. The mother comes in, she's crying. Now, like, it's a mixture of like her sending off, was it the mother or the grandmother? I don't know. But whatever the case, they're crying. They're sad.
The mom was very, very enthusiastic.
It doesn't even matter who they were or what it was.
She was just like, oh my gosh. There was a lot of,
They were absolutely floored, and it was just so nice. She's like, I need to ask permission to hug you. Can I hug you? And she gave me like the nicest hug of like emotional, I can't let go. And I was just like, oh, let me stay for the party. And it's so nice. And it's not the first or last time it's going to happen. The tears, that was just like bonus points, but there's never,
it was a beautiful cake.
First-hand
experience, beautiful cake, and it was well received.
Thank you.
So well received.
I mean, there's been moments where I've missed the mark, and even then, they're still so gracious. But when you hit the mark and you hit a big party and you hit the relatives before an emotional bye, it's like, forget it. It's phenomenal. It's
just in there. It's just in there in history for you. That's it.
It's that moment of, oh, great, I'm doing the right thing here. Like I'm on the right path. So
it validates everything, all the hard work, the frustrations.
I still, man, if they knew how often I referred to their delivery, I should tell them, because every interview I have, I'm like, that's the delivery where I was like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Like, this is it.
Like, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to get into baking cakes, who wants to make this a career or a business?
It's, like I said, mostly interpreting people's minds. You basically have to be a psychic on some level, and don't beat yourself up if you don't actually understand, because honestly, sometimes they just don't give you enough words to understand what they're saying. The trick is asking enough questions to get to the point of where visually it should look like. But on top of that, above all else, trust your artistic instinct, because there have been many times in my past where I followed everything they asked, and I got frustrated because I knew it was never gonna work. And I never said anything because I didn't trust as an artist that I could say, hey, listen, it's just not gonna work, or hey, this is what you can do. But that's kind of the beautiful turnaround of, it's not, hey, I can't do this. It's, hey, that's not possible, but this is what I can do. Choose A, B, or C. Mm-hmm. And now immediately you put them on a path of, okay, that's not possible, period. What can we do from here? Instead of, hey, I just can't do it. I'm just not capable of doing it. And it's sometimes not really the case. It's just, like I said, reading people's minds and being a psychic and understanding what they see in their head if it's not a physical picture. Sometimes they send you a picture, they're like, that's exactly what I want. I'm like, cool, great. But you want to make sure that you're doing that little detail, that little inside joke that makes sense to that one guest or whatever it is. Yeah, you want to make sure that you give that. For me, as a cake artist, it's about the party and that conversational piece. So if you could hit that inside joke, or like that tiny little detail, or that color, or whatever it is, that tiny little thing that someone's going to be like, hey, I can't believe they caught that. That's what you want.
What is the weirdest commission that you have to say that you received?